Let's go. Good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. Welcome to the Crypto Unicorns Town Hall number 47 with Aron Beierschmitt, Crypto Unicorn CEO and co-founder, as well as Iori, lead of product and market growth. This town hall will be focused on talking about our partnership with Game 7 and what that means for us, for you, for me, for everybody in the Unicorn family. We'll also have a couple of roadmap updates delivered by none other than our T-Spiller update giver, co-founder, CEO Aron, as well as our lovely, amazing Ziori. Good morning, Aron. Good morning, Ziori. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, as always, for the wonderful intro, Sparkly. It's almost impossible to match your energy, but I appreciate what you bring. Oh, man. Um, I guess let's get started with some updates. I think Ziori stepped away. He'll be back. All right. It's hard to describe everything the team is kind of pushing on simultaneous and kind of all the development that we have going on right now. So four major things that are top of mind for me. One, obviously, Twilight Tactics work is ongoing, and we're targeting release here towards the end of the month. I'm going to keep the actual date somewhat of a secret, as I don't think that's been shared yet, but super, super excited by the progress there. Twilight Tactics, of course, is what's going to be the follow-on on-chain event after Shadowforge, and it will be Team Shadowcorn sending minions in to control various regions of the Dark Forest, and obviously Team Unicorn coming in to try to take and capture those regions. This tug of war will affect things in the core game world while this event runs. Obviously, this will be the first moment in which some unicorns can perish in the Dark Forest, and souls will begin to become a thing in anticipation of, the later launch of GemWorks and high-tier gems, which will consume unicorn souls. Obviously, another use for souls over time will be Shadowcorn Ascension. So very, very excited to have this event kick off. It will be a reoccurring event that will have certain trigger points, and this very much continues this path that we're building towards, which is this build battle game. So very excited to see that launch towards the end of the month. And I don't think we've teased any UI, right, Sparkly? Nobody's seen what this looks like.
I hope so. But yeah, I don't think we have. We have not.
Well, massive shout out to Franklin and the UI UX team. They've really expanded on what you saw with Shadowforge, and I'm just super, super excited by where that's landing. I think they've done a phenomenal job on that front. And so anyway, excited to see that land. In tandem with that, the core game team is working hard on Tribes, the Tribes release. This will be the first time we can begin to bring clans into the real game, and everyone can start kind of building and progressing together. The big feature for the initial release of Tribes is the launch of GemWorks, which will let players who join Tribes begin to craft gems, and of course leverage these gems as a way to upgrade and progress the current unicorns that they have. I'm very excited about every unicorn kind of getting a Thanos gauntlet and leveraging some of the things that we've seen work really well with rituals and stuff in the Shadowforge, and obviously leverage that in new fiction we call codices. So I'm very excited to double down on those systems and see those come together. And so we really need to start leaking more, as this is looking really good. I guess I'll start leaking some more alpha in some of these channels over the next week or two, but super excited to see both of those major features come together. Obviously, with the release of Tribes, you then have several additional releases after that will continue layering functionality on top of the 3.0 release, which of course includes Tribes and GemWorks. There'll be additional buildings, dare I say things like the Armory, and other buildings that are going to help Tribes begin to prepare for the impending Tribe PvP war, which will begin to occur. Shadowcorn's running around in the middle of that, causing chaos and kicking off Twilight Tactic events. It's going to be, I think, it's going to bring this fun and fresh template to the game that I know many of you have been playing and grinding for quite some time. So looking forward to seeing us land this next couple of releases in the roadmap with Twilight Tactics and Tribes, which will be our 3.0 release.
One
On
note on
the
Shadowforge, real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
The rituals have been really quite a big success from a product design perspective. There was maybe a little bit of timidness about, will this be an effective incentive? You know, like, will people actually want to mint rituals to be able to use their husks more efficiently to make all these minions? And it seems like the answer has been a strong yes. The amount of RBW and dark marks going into minting new rituals has been fantastic. It's been a very highly used feature, and I think beyond some of our early expectations. So that's just a great piece of anecdotal evidence that we're moving in a solid direction here, and we're certainly taking that to heart with other design principles. But have definitely observed increased minting of rituals. So well done, everyone. Keep it up.
Yeah, very, very pumped by how that feature has been received, and super excited to see it get really expanded with Twilight Tactics here in the near future. I think just generally from what I've seen people say, community does not understand how close we are to these releases. And so anyway, I hope everybody's getting excited to know these things are imminent and not something you're going to have to wait months for at all. On the second party side of things, the unicornparty.com Team Surf is hard at work on getting and preparing the mobile releases of both Bumpercorns and Mob Run per the schedule that was put into their proposal. So everybody can check that on the forum. They came to me with kind of an interesting idea to get a certain gameplay type out earlier to kind of follow that launch in December. And so I'm kind of working with that team to determine whether or not we want that. Eventually, I'm going to go forward with a temperature check with the community, and we can all kind of decide that together. The idea is just giving an additional game, getting that out slightly earlier in between the initial launch of the bingo game on the web and mobile platforms. So be on the lookout likely next week for a temperature check, and we'll kind of roll forward with that result. So they're moving forward very quickly. I'm excited to see that progress. Again, unicornparty.com gives us this really compelling opportunity to present our IP to not necessarily Web3 natives. If you are a Web3 native, you'll be able to play with crypto assets and wager crypto assets on the outcome of these skill-based matches. But it will also allow fiat payments. And so I'm just really excited to see how this works. And I believe, like I said in the forum, it can be a significant revenue driver for us, which is something we desperately need to continue to ensure the treasury holds up. So that's unicornparty.com. Next is Rainbow Rumble. So we've been doing playtests twice a week as a team. It's fun as shit. It's a very hard game. I'm looking forward to kicking ass in the arena. Zori, anything you want to say on anything you want to tease with respect to the Creator Cup, or you want to kind of keep that stuff under wraps? We have a shitload of plans for how we roll this game out and the marketing and awareness around it.
Yeah, so we have a lot of releases coming, and we're still not quite at the point of wanting to commit to hard dates. But saying it's a big Q4 is maybe a big understatement, because this is the shift. You know, you've talked about it several times, from farm sim now to really a dynamic battle game that does have more social elements to it across the board. You know, Tribes levels that up in one way, and then also just having this faction like Shadowcorns versus Unicorns, and the outcome of those large team decisions affecting the next kind of phase of the cycle until the next battle begins. That's going to make this whole thing feel a little bit more real. You know, the stakes are increasing in a much more dynamic way that I think will help make this game stand apart. Rainbow Rumble is different from that core game stuff, but it's still connected to that. And the timing, I think, is going to be really great. This is going to be coming out, you know, from the American perspective, right around the holidays, you know, right before this Christmas slot. We're definitely working on this of a tournament of sorts, getting some streamers together. I've done a couple of these before very successfully with Axie Infinity. So we're going to take some of those learnings and try to apply that here for Rainbow Rumble. So still locking in our list of influencers streamers, but we've been doing some outreach looking for streamers, some folks that you know, hopefully some folks that you don't know, so we can get this cross-pollination of audiences. The idea is to have everybody streaming at the same time. So when we announce that date, the plan is for it to be a Saturday. So hopefully most folks, I've picked the most global time zone time slot that exists on a Saturday morning, so that hopefully it's okay for Asia, a little early for America, but still doable if you don't stay out too late on Friday, and just fine for Europe as well. And the idea is to make as much noise as possible, everybody streaming at the same time, clipping all these streams, giveaways galore, all these unicorns going out, and really amplifying that launch for Rainbow Rumble. So that's all I'll say for now, but get excited for that. The event's really starting to come together. It's small but targeted, and I think this is, if all goes according to plan, I'm very hopeful that this will be a very cost-effective activation for the reach, if that makes sense.
I'm pumped. I mean, just seeing this game come together, it's a new way to experience your unicorns. It is a highly competitive, very, very skill-based game that I think will be fun, that will be engaging. Ziori, I know you and I were chatting about this earlier this week. Like, there's just kind of a lull right now in the market. There's not a lot of excitement, you know, outside of maybe Big Time finally opening up its economy and making that real.
You're totally
we've
right.
Just been in this lull.
These people are hungry. You know, most of the streamers, content creators, you know, some of these folks are like, you know, Axie esports competitors. You know, this is a pure skill game. So I'm trying to tap into some of those folks that have that esports audience that's going to be a little bit more aligned with these games that are higher skill cap, but still have rewards if you can climb the leaderboards. 4 unicorns are pretty cheap right now. You know, it's like $4 or $5. So when I say that to these influencers, like, dude, this is a pretty cheap ticket to a pretty robust, fun game. Like, this isn't a little mobile game. You know, this is the kind of thing that you could play like on a console or like full screen on your computer, and it feels a little more immersive than something that you would just play on your phone. You know, this is a proper game, so to speak. And they kind of perk up their ear a little bit on camera, and then they go, oh, man, there's not a lot of people launching stuff right now. Like, I'm kind of hungry for stream content. Like, I've been streaming Axie Classic for the last 6 months, and it's awesome, but it's also getting a little boring. Like, they seem excited to be able to switch it up and have a new thing to dive into. So we've been slowly leaking out like little pictures and kind of drip campaign, and I'm excited to start sharing more footage with them. But the preliminary feedback has been pretty great. You know, we're gone with the days of paying 5 figures for a single 5-minute video that gets 500 views. I think folks are really hungry to actually engage and like really have something fun to play and compete with, where they can, you know, show off to their friends, meme around a little bit. I don't really have to explain it. They seem to get it pretty quickly, which is a really great sign after sending someone a deck, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to hear, or I was super excited earlier this week to kind of hear the excitement that we're getting from streamers around it. And I think in the past, we've learned from prior launches, like, we really have to hype the shit out of this and structure it in a way that is really going to resonate with our core audience, the group that we're going after. And so I'm excited we're so far out ahead this time, over a month from the, I guess, closed and open beta launches of the game. And so anyway, I shouldn't be leaking all that kind of alpha. So that's Rainbow Rumble. Excellent. That is everything the team currently has top of mind. There will be a 3.1 release that follows Tribes, which will land prior to the end of the year. That's going to continue to layer on additional functionality. In the coming weeks, you're going to see the design team come forward and present effectively what we're calling the final roadmap, the final arc of the roadmap, which begins to indicate how Tribes expands and grows, how Team RPG comes into the fold, both from a Tribe v Tribe PvP perspective, as well as just arena, real-time PvP. And so I'm really excited. We've been spending a lot of time resolving how we land the plane here with this roadmap and, you know, really hit the final notes of what was originally pitched in the white paper, which of course we've drastically expanded from, as you all well know. All right, quickly, let's talk about Game 7. Obviously, a little unfortunate in the middle of our announcements, a war kicks off. To be clear with everyone here, several of the Game 7 team members, including one of the individuals who's the lead who's going to be on the Twitter space today, are in Israel. So this was a very serious thing. And, we need to be respectful of the situation that's happening, despite the fact that it is poor timing on our release. So Game 7 on their side is holding back on kind of releasing their portion of the announcement, just given the situation. If you've been on crypto Twitter, no one can really talk about anything else other than the war. And so it's just bad timing to be pushing forward on these kind of announcements. So our side is at least out of the bag. I'm happy to answer questions on the partnership today. I'll clarify a little bit more right now about who they are and what we intend to do with them. But keep in mind, there has been a little bit of a pause here, and we do have a very serious situation with some of their individuals being in Israel. If you're not familiar with the situation, people are literally getting drafted into the army. And it's obviously a very serious situation. A sad state of our kind of world that we've now had 2 wars kick off since we started this project. So it's something that's unfortunate. And I just ask that our community be respectful and kind of patient as we weather this storm, and then obviously hopefully get things back on track once we know their team is safe and obviously able to get back to work. As far as who is Game 7, I mean, the very simple answer is they are the gaming sub-DAO of Mantle. What is Mantle? Go to this website. Mantle used to be known as BitDAO. If you're unfamiliar with BitDAO, BitDAO is the largest DAO in terms of treasury in the world. So they've been kind of an OG in the space for quite some time. This Mantle transition was a way to shift towards they're now building their own L2 chain on top of EigenLayer. And if you scroll down on the site, you can actually see they list their treasury. You can validate this on Dune if you would like. But there's obviously, let's see, 329 million worth of Ethereum, $1 million worth of Ethereum at today's prices, and well over 100 million worth of stable coins. Oh shit, 62 million wrapped stake ETH. I missed that. And you scroll down a little further, you look at the sub DAOs and the ecosystems that they've funded. So one is Mantle, which is a $200 million pool of capital for groups to build on top of the Mantle L2. EduDAO is another one that they've funded, and then of course Game 7 is effectively their gaming initiative. You can go back into BitDAO's forum and literally see the Game 7 proposal and everything that they're all about. So if you're really interested in digging deep, go to the forum, look at the Game 7 proposal that set them up for the funding that they have received. And happy to answer more questions as they come up. But this should be something that we're all very excited about, because Game 7 is trying to aggregate this DAO of both builders and players. They're more trying to get builders, people who want to build tools, people who want to build marketplaces, people who want to build and do analytics on top of games. And so I know some of our community members would actually probably benefit heavily from getting into the Game 7 Discord and finding opportunities to contribute within that community as well. On our plate are kind of 3 major initiatives that are the starting point for this relationship with Game 7. First is governance. They've obviously purchased 17 million plus RBW. They're in the process of staking that. We expect them to stake it for at least a year, which is great. And then you can begin to expect their active participation in governance proposals. They've kind of appointed someone from their side who will announce after this crisis is over, hopefully soon, who will be representing Game 7 in the forums, doing deeper analysis on proposals, maybe even potentially putting forward their own. I really have no idea how much they're going to lean in. I hope that they really do participate, and that foundationally was what I went to them with in January when I began this discussion. The second big initiative is a partnership with Summon, which is an incubated project that Game 7 is funding. Summon is a governance forum that is just a lot more sophisticated than our current discourse tool, our forum that we use. It includes things that are simple like token gating. So now anyone in the world can view, but to write proposals, to submit comments, you have to have some SRBW. those kind of things, right? Showing off everyone's badges that they've earned. So when someone responds, you kind of know, wow, this is, I can't imagine what time travelers merit badge is going to look like, right? And so, it allows us to kind of bring more of our world and what we've done directly into the forum in a way that I think is going to make the process higher signal and less noise. So that's Summon. The next company and project that they're incubating that I'm really excited about is Hyperplay. Hyperplay is a game launcher. It's a Web3 game launcher. It automatically ingests both Epic games and good old games, if you're familiar with those storefronts. And I think that's a smart idea. The goal is to try to mix in normal games with Web3 titles in a way that feels a little bit more seamless. The guy running the Hyperplay is Jacob, who used to be the head of product at MetaMask. So Jacob is, an OG in the space and someone that I have a lot of respect for. And I'm excited that after MetaMask, he comes over to do this Web3 kind of game launcher. You can look them up. They recently raised, I think, over 10 million bucks from a number of great investors after Game 7 had incubated them. And obviously, again, this is helpful for us. It puts us in the same room with these other projects that are out there getting funding today. And this is a massive win. It took a long time to get over the line. It was very frustrating at times, but I'm happy to be here. So happy to clarify any questions that may come up on the Game 7 partnership that weren't just answered there. And TLDR, let's get excited. This is a big win for us and puts us directly in line and in bed with one of the largest and most well-funded groups in the entire crypto space, that being Mantle. All right, Sparkly, I am ready to take questions.
All right, love it. So for other people who are asking, what is Game 7? What are the ways that Game 7 will participate in CU? I just added a little TLDR in general so you can share that with your friends who aren't able to make it to this town hall. So thank you so much, Aaron and Ziori. We do have a hard stop at the end of the hour, by the way, so let's run by the rules really quickly. We have a 3 questions per person rule. If that question has been answered previously, you will have to ask something else. Any questions related specifically to your account or a Zendesk issue stays on Zendesk. We can't help you here on the stage. And to ask a question in voice, please press request to speak. That button looks like a raised hand. You can queue up at any time. We also have written questions and anonymous questions. In fact, let's read out the anonymous questions right now. Okay, let's do the first one. Anonymous person is asking, Aaron, if you were a player and had to join a clan, which clan would you be a member of?
Wow, that's a banger right there.
That's funny. I was muted. Put me on the spot here. Well, I can tell you first off, I wouldn't survive in any of the RKO guilds. The tribes, they'd kick me out. So, I wouldn't meet the minimum criteria there. It's this fucking games job. Too much work. I'm partial to the Thud crew, I would say. Shout out to Goliath. I think the Breed Boys are hilarious. TGG, I maybe could survive in that. JPTG, maybe I could survive in that one. That is funny. I should try next season. I should try to join. All right, next season I'll try to join. Maybe we'll do like a little competition to see which clan I qualify for.
Will you be
Good
joining
question.
anonymously or as yourself, as Big Boss Aaron?
That's the difficulty. I don't think I have the mental capacity to maintain an anon account, so probably as myself, warts and all.
All right. Season 3. Spicy. All right. And we have a second anonymous question. Oh, this is pretty long. Aaron, I have been enjoying jousting on the weekends, but stars dominating has been very frustrating. This dominance is reflected both in ELO, win rates listed on Haku, and on the jousting leaderboards that Venticello has made. Do you think that jousting will get balanced soon? I feel like I have missed out by being a primarily flower and candy breeder.
I share in your pain as I'm also predominantly a flower and candy breeder. About 9 months in, I picked up a couple of corns from the one and only Dip Beak on the Crystal and Cloud front. So I had a little bit of a decent run there. Um, we are in the process of putting forward a proposal to tweak the formula. I want this to be the final time we touch it. So we're right now in the middle of getting engineering estimates on the level of effort to tweak the formula. James has obviously been following a lot of player feedback on that front. Once we understand really what we're asking in terms of resources and time, the plan will be to present this to the community for a feedback period. And my message to the community is this is the last time I want to touch this formula. And I think we're making changes to ensure that stats are weighted more favorably. A massive mistake I've owned many, many times was when we kicked off jousting, design around this time last year, we were still planning on a variety of loops that would favor certain stats. And I was still very much pushing on that idea. And that was a mistake. And as Rainbow Rumble came in to take on racing and these things, we've leaned more heavily into stats and skills. It makes sense to retune this. But obviously, with everything on engineering's plate, we're trying to get clarity on, is this a lot of work? Is this a change we can segment into an upcoming release? Once we understand what that looks like, we're going to go to everyone in the community and seek feedback. So be on the lookout for that. And I would say we are looking at adjusting it to make it more fair across stats. Across classes. And then with gyms launching here, rather imminently, that's going to also favor a retune, given you can start to optimize, for the weak side of your specific corn, and in between these weekend tournaments, grind out, add gems, do better next week, rinse and repeat. And that really becomes, or is a hopeful part of the system we intend to build there.
Yeah, as Aaron said, we're not going to make any rush changes to jousting without consulting the community first. This is going to be, a period where we want to see the full effect of the weekend jousting over a period of more than just 2 or 3 weeks. We want to let it run its course and really get a sense of, will this slowly have a ramp up period or not? But yeah, I'm hopeful that we can find a middle ground with the formula that doesn't take away from the quote unquote meta that we have and the general logic that James has created, because I think just being all total stats is not fun either, right? There's a balance there that's really ideal. And I admit, I don't really know what that balance is. And I think that's where an interesting discussion can start to occur. So there is a thread in the feedback section of the Discord where we were talking about jousting stuff. Someone had asked about that, and I just posted a similar response. But if you have any follow-up questions or thoughts or want to theory craft around that, that thread is a great place.
All right, great. And for another anonymous question, we have a hater in the chat. Somebody doesn't like the Breed Boys clan because they're saying the Breeding Guys clan has all of the best unicorns and it feels unfair for smaller clans. Do you think this is fair?
The Breed Boys have spent inordinate amounts of resources and have been one of the groups most actively balancing the game economy as a result of their rather insane, I will admit, level of breeding over the last, what are we coming up on, 18 months? Gyms is how you begin to catch up in some ways, right? So as weaker clans band together into these tribes, you need to think very carefully about the strategy that you put forward and what you want to optimize for. So yeah, I'm not going to shit on a group of individuals who have put in the work. And I mean, we've looked. You can't imagine the number of breeding boosters and stuff that have been burned by them over the course of that progress. I think on our side, you're seeing us purchase more and more high stack corns and redistribute them via rewards and giveaways. I also understand that, if one group monopolizes, this is what's so crazy about this space. If one group monopolizes the highest stat best bloodlines, the only way for others to catch up are going to be through the gem system. That is in and of itself a good thing. And so I would absolutely suggest that, as you think about tribes and coming together as a tribe, you really think about what's going to, or how to optimize your strategy. When we start to layer direct tribe PvP and kind of conquest on top of this, things start to get really interesting, especially as Team RPG gets incorporated, because now even weaker clans that maybe have more time or high skill players in those loops, they're going to be able to be rather competitive against clans that potentially are just optimized for other things. And I think generally, as you're looking to structure a clan, you want some specialization across that, so you can take on and ideally win in a variety of situations. So it's a good question to ask. I hope that answers help provide some clarity on how we think about that. But I'm certainly not going to say they've done something unfair, because they've really put in the work. No one can deny that. It sits on chain.
Yeah, I think that's where the magic comes in on our part of how do we create systems that allow for some meaningful catch up without taking away from the hard work that people have put in over time. It's not just, oh, you were early, so you won by default. Often it's early in combination with a good strategy, a lot of risk, a lot of hard work, all that. So that's the magical balance, right? World of Warcraft takes the extreme approach. Every expansion, they just kind of reset everybody to the next level, and the push begins again. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think we're aspiring to create something that feels a little bit more living and just doesn't have that same hard reset type feeling, but is a little bit more living, breathing, and evolves over time in different directions with careful calibration. So gems, I think, will help achieve that quite a bit. But this is almost the definition of fair. This is the outcome of free markets and people taking risk and making investments, and now realizing the fruits of their labor year and a half down the road. So definitely fair.
Definitely agree. From a community perspective, I just think that the breed boys are degenerates. I say that in the most respectful way possible.
I think that's a
They're
compliment in
amazing.
their world. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And like
That's a compliment in my world, that's for sure.
yeah.
No,
In
I mean,
communities.
it's going to be interesting to see. I think once people begin to understand where we're taking tribes after we get this baseline 3.0 release, where you can create a tribe, you can now suddenly start to play in the shared space together, begin to upgrade the tribe town hall and the other buildings. Once you see the next release, you're like, oh shit, now we're getting an armory, now we're getting totems. Oh man, we're getting prepared for war, we're getting prepared for battle. Once you see what follows that with the actual kind of map-based combat for tribes, I think people are suddenly going to go, holy shit, like I see where this is going, I see where this is landing. And it should be very exciting. And I think what people are going to see is having a mix of different player archetypes inside of your clan, inside of your tribe, is going to be very important to your ability to be at the top. And I think the way we're going to really tweak and tune this economy such that, these wars are going to really matter in terms of who wins out. And I think it's going to be a very fun dynamic that once again favors different players. Like if you come forward and you're just doing the breed game and you don't have players who are going to be able to go in and really kick ass on the team RPG side, like you're going to be very weak relative to a clan that maybe not as strong on the breeding front or is trying to catch up on the breeding front. And then again, gems is that counterbalance. Now you can take lower stat corns and begin to improve them. You will be able to, over time, burn your donkey corns, get a soul, use that for a high tier gem, and further progress. And so, breeding is a foundational component of our overall game and economy, and it's important. And I'm proud that the players who have kind of been the best at that game to date, are at the top. That is very much by design. GymWorks is going to give others an opportunity to really catch up. You just need to be strategic about it, and I think we've got a good system outlined to really balance that. Anyway, great question. Let's see, time check. Okay, 20 more minutes.
All right, 20 more minutes. We can cover the other questions now. They're mostly about G7. So let's scroll. Okay, will the summon tool be integrated into the CU Discord or DAO?
Yes, part of the summon tool that they're kind of replicating is what we lost when Bolt, I think it was called Bolt, right, Sparkly?
Yes, Loot Bolt.
Loot Bolt. When Loot Bolt went under, that was a tool that we were really excited to use. And, again, RIP to another startup that died in the bear.
RIP.
RIP. So yeah, that's actually one of the really cool things about this partnership is the Summon team is like working directly with Nanessa, for example, on, hey, what tools do you guys want? Because they look at us as one of the preeminent game DAOs in the world. And so if they build a tool for us, the idea is obviously other projects in the space can leverage and use that. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited about this partnership is they're really looking to us for product feedback and, how do they meet our needs kind of first, because then again, they can kind of offer the platform to others who likely have similar needs, especially in the game space. So it will integrate with Discord. It will integrate directly with Snapshot in kind of cool ways. And it will interface with the underlying assets, SRBW, and all the soulbound badges and stuff we've been given out. So it's early stages with that team. I know they're in the middle of a fundraise, but we have gotten on several calls. We've shared product requirement documentation. And so that is a thing that's moving forward. We will not transition from the forum until everything is kind of ready and we've done some testing and stuff. So this is a mid to long-term goal on the time horizon, just to set expectations there, but definitely something I'm excited about. And I think will be an enormous improvement to our existing forum and just governance process in general.
100%. I'm pretty hyped for that. And I'm really excited to see some more moderating on the forum. There's just going to be more lovers. Okay. Another question. Oh, wait, let's see. Goliath Rules is here to say hi. Please come on over to the stage. Hello. Good morning.
I thought I'd ask the question that my little group basically wanted to have asked, which is, I think folks know that I'm okay with, taking on folks with smaller wallets and stuff like that. They're getting slammed right now with shadow coins. And I have shadow coins and I'm like, cool. All right, everybody's getting beat up. But then again, some of the folks are asking, is there a way to soften the blow a little bit so that if you have a small farm and you have, like a few unicorns in that, maybe it's not one berry, but maybe you get 10 berries. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? That's kind of where I'm at.
This is for situations where players are not using a unicorn.
Yeah, they're using babies because they don't have the resources to get to adult right now, basically.
Is there a reason that they're not just picking up adult corns? I mean, you could get 10 for $30. Is that just the issue? And I'm curious at this because I want to understand some of the early player spend preferences around this stuff, right?
No,
like, there's a pretty simple solution that, in my eyes, is not a significant cost, which is just to simply buy some adults, right?
Yeah. I think I got folks that are coming in that are sticking a toe in, and I'm trying to get them to basically get in a little deeper, right? And so they're willing to like stick a toe in and get some land and basically get a few unicorns, and then they kind of mess with that. And they want to try to earn their way up, basically, and they don't want to put any more in. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I can try to give them some suggestions in terms of like lower level corns that aren't that expensive, and maybe they can, wade a little deeper into the pool. But I don't know. I mean, it is a pretty big burn. Like I got a 16 land farm with 200 unicorns. So when I get hit with like, a few farms out of it that get one seed or one berry back, it doesn't really affect me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be
I mean,
curious to
listen,
hear your thoughts or the feedback from your users around like the tricky part with babies is that they're not necessarily meant to be the on-ramp for new users of like, hey, babies are cheaper. They're the starting point. Work your way up. The babies are sort of like meant to give you that opportunity to, oh, this is a good one. I want to apply a booster. I want to manipulate the stats a little bit. Over time, where I'll just be honest, like a little scared of the baby population getting too big. So we're always trying to find ways to make sure babies can't do too much as a result, or else it's like because we've seen players min-max babies a lot. Like that has been a pain point for the economy where the really crafty players have found some like, wow, this baby is getting a lot of efficiency and we didn't necessarily intend for that to happen. It's just complex systems sometimes have these interesting little endpoints. So
Yeah,
I would say that might be one of the gaps there of like it kind of seems like they would be the starting point, but they're almost not. They're more of like a breeding stepping stone. I don't know if that makes sense.
no, that makes sense. That was my feedback back to them. I'm like, at some point in time, folks need to be able to, they need to think about burning their unum. They need to think about, basically turning babies into adults. Maybe you don't have a booster, maybe you just, roll the dice. But at the end of the day, we got to burn down the unum. That was my feedback. So, but I do
Yeah,
agree.
I mean, we're talking about a squeeze here. Like that's what we would call it in free to play, right? And I understand that, the difference here is people have purchased land and unicorns to start to play. So by default, everyone playing our game is already a spender. That is actually a lot easier than the idea of trying to take, 2 to 3% of people in a free to play game and squeeze them as much as possible, right? So a couple of things that I've talked about before. I wanted to kind of ask my first question before I gave you kind of an answer to the issue that you raised. Like I get the changes that we're making are decreasing a new player's ability to progress, certainly at the same rate that a OG player could. That's technically by design. Free-to-play games over time, if you're spending, you're getting way more value out of that spend than someone who spent a year ago. Someone who's been for a year and spending continuously is fine. Someone who churns out falls behind. Like they hyperinflate their economies. We cannot do that because they have real assets. We have to do kind of the opposite, especially in low growth environments, tweak and tweak and tweak. And I've mentioned this many times that the noob onboarding program and the which is kind of tied to this referral program that is launching soon. It's actually another partner who's unfortunately based in Israel, but we did get in touch with them. Everybody seems to be fine. That seems to be moving forward. So when the referral program launches, like now you've got a way to sign up these players that you've brought into the referral program. As they progress, now they have these progression goals that are going to give them rewards that will let them purchase berries from the RMP and do, reinvest in the game economy in a way that, should help to accelerate some of that progress. Tied to this referral program is the noob onboarding program, which will be distributing through the mailbox. And this gives us the opportunity to give them starter quests and things that even seeds with lower timers that are obviously very finite to help them through this progression. And we need to be careful with it. We've seen time and time again, any opportunity to exploit all of our players. I shouldn't say all of our players, a lot of our players and many of our OGs take, and that's fine. That's literally what the space is about. You guys have the agency to do those things. So the new program does need to be designed in a way that limits that ability, and tying it to the referral program where we can more easily track, oh, this is a legit referral. They're actually doing, things. It's a new account. You will not be able to just move land around and get access to the new program. So we have to think through exploit vectors like that. And it's delayed the launch of that program a bit. But those two, the referral program and the noob onboarding program, are our answer really to the root of your question, which is like, hey, you're making these changes that I'm fine with as a player who's in the mid to kind of elder game, right? But a noob is getting, is really getting crushed. And then you have to just take a step back and go, okay, when unicornparty.com really begins to get out of soft launch and goes into full launch, when Rainbow Rumble launches, like now there's just other things that players coming in can experience and ways to interact with our ecosystem that aren't necessarily land gameplay. Obviously, we hope more and more people trickle down to land gameplay, but I think everybody understands the more players we bring on top of land gameplay, the better, right? So anyway, just saying that like land gameplay will always be a little tough and challenging to get into. One of the benefits that Tribes is going to have is if your tribe builds in a certain way, you can probably protect, is I guess what I'll say, some of the Shadowcorn attacks and shelter your noobs. And so I do expect some tribes build in that vector and look to onboard more players into that. So I don't want to come off at all dismissive of that question. Yes, we set it up. There are incentives to come spend. I mean, 27 US dollars gets you 60 plus thousand unum, right? Like, it's not a lot if you want to accelerate your progression. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty slow right now. And the three things, Tribes, noob onboarding program, and the referral program, are the avenue to soften that. Because I don't disagree with the idea that like if it's too brutal, we'll churn players out and nobody will stick around. And it is something we're watching very closely and trying to design these programs specifically to counter that effect.
That actually was that was sort of the comment that came back was like, wow, I'm just gonna get mad and I'm gonna leave. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's kind of silly, but at the end of the day, you're still playing, right? I mean, so yeah, no, I agree with everything that you said, and I like the fact that you're coming up with the new programs. I'll try to, maybe if I do some teaching and stuff like that, maybe it might help in that. So I'll do some more videos and stuff like that. But okay, thanks. I'll hand it off.
Thank you so much, Goliath. Really appreciate your time. All right. Okay, do we have any more speakers? Not right now, but please feel free to raise your hands. Time check. We do have 9 minutes left, so let's make that count. Okay, we have another anonymous question. Clan War is in 3 months. Is it possible that the point breakdown will change midway? Is it possible to add points for Shadowcorns? They're talking about Clan War Season 3.
The short answer is yes, anything is possible. Most likely for Twilight Tactics, we are going to add something at the end of Season 1. Timeline kind of permitting there. The plan is, if we do that, to run it by the community and get a sense of how the community would like to add points to it, because I don't want to disrupt leaderboards midway through, but also with a longer leaderboard, it's nice to have some things that change it up a little bit and can make it feel like a bit of a live op. I think the idea of adding Twilight Tactics battles into the leaderboard makes a lot of sense, and that obviously includes the production of Shadowcorns. I think the reason why we chose ultimately to omit them from Season 2 was just that it's a little too simplistic right now, and it really is just a function of who has the most Shadowcorns or the rarest Shadowcorns just kind of wins by default, and that's just not dynamic enough to be able to award like a point system that I think is meaningful. But battles are just a lot more dynamic and have a lot more moving parts, and we also really want to incentivize people to participate in battles. So yes, definitely. I think we're always open to feedback, especially with this longer season. We'll see how things feel, and if we need to make changes for Season 3, let's do it. The idea for Clan Wars is ultimately to be a platform to get people working together and also create some healthy rivalries, so to speak. But it's supposed to be something that you guys enjoy, that the community largely likes. So always going to be outliers, but if we feel like, hey, we tried something, this is a little stale, let's go in a different direction, let's switch it up. If you guys loudly decide as a group, hey, you know what, it's better if it rotates and it's not just locked in, then we should think about having a live op in every season. That is something that we could do. So yeah, anything's possible when it comes to the clan leaderboard with things like that, I think.
All right, good answer. Okay, we have another Game 7 question from Bahis. Does the partnership with Game 7 and CU, do you have any specific KPIs or milestones for both parties?
If you go to the forum for Mantle and you kind of review the Game 7 proposal that they made to them, right? It was $500 million in total funding that was available for them, but it comes in $100 million tranches, which of course they've got the first. At some point, they're going to go back to Mantle and request the next tranche. So it is really on Game 7 to kind of have shown that they've made progress towards their goal, which I think puts us in a good spot in that I believe they're going to really point to us, a lot of what they're doing with us, and how we're interoperating with some of the other projects that they've funded as, proof that they're progressing towards the goals that were set up in that proposal. So Bajas, if you're really interested I don't recall any specific KPIs. It was a little vague in the proposal format, but you can kind of see what's on Game 7 to unlock, the next massive tranche of funding from Mantle. And so it's a situation where they have a certain bar that they need to clear. And again, there's certain criteria listed out in the forum proposal that you can check out. From my perspective, the KPI I care most about is they're active and engaged in governance beyond just voting in Snapshot. I expect them to weigh in independently on forum posts. I want to see some of their data team dig into all of our on and off chain data and actually get in the weeds on discussions, whether it's meta changes or overall macroeconomic changes. Like my hope is that we really see them lean in on that. And then foundationally, having Hyperplay really help us promote and push Rainbow Rumble is a huge thing. I just got formally introduced to Jacob, who runs that project, used to be head of product, the product lead on MetaMask. So, ideally, they're going to co-sponsor some of the stuff that we're doing. Hyperplay is going to most of the major crypto conferences and has a really cool booth. Ziori and I were down in Pasadena earlier this year at an event that Game 7 had sponsored. The Hyperplay booth was epic, lots of PCs, and they're hungry for fun, shareable, memeable content on their platform. So that's just another where I can't give you a specific KPI. I feel like you might be a PM in your real life. But what I care about is seeing support from Hyperplay, right? And, co-marketing efforts on that front. Summon basically building us this portal, right, is another kind of KPI. So to me, I'm more concentrated on very specific launches and, all this kind of stuff. And then active participation inside of governance. I can say they care about the price of RBW because they now hold it. It is a part of their treasury. It's a part of their reporting process to Mantle. So they are aligned with other members of our community who've staked over the long term and want to see this project scale and succeed. I mean, they had similar questions during this process I had to go through to get this deal done around runway and how can we survive and weather the bear. And I had to address those questions as I have with this community. So I don't know if there's any follow-ups, but that's kind of top of mind what I'm looking for out of Game 7 in this, in this partnership. And I kind of hope that we find other ways to really optimally co-market and co-promote and ideally co-develop some tools that helps further both of our ecosystems.
All right, love it. Okay, we have 3 minutes left before the end of the hour. So let's just take one last question from Crazy Crypto. Aron, can you give us an update on Series A funding?
I can. I have been on that grind. I've been on that grind, really formally since Token 2049 next week. I'm cautiously optimistic, given the kind of horrifyingly bad time it is to be out raising funding for any project, not just us, really any project. But I will say, the Asia Pacific based funds are definitely more interested. So I've been very, very focused on them over US based and European VCs. They're just, especially in the US, they're just under the specter of scary Gary and the regulatory uncertainty and kind of all of that mess. And many regions in Asia have put forward clear legislation are just more open. So those VC funds are not, not there. It's still they're not in the US, so they're just not worried about those things. I will say everyone is still very cautious. But if everybody remembers how much money these funds raise, like ultimately they need to deploy it or they're going to lose it. And so what I have seen resonate is we're really one of the few projects that I can just point to. I literally went in Discord live yesterday on a VC call to show them the Shadowcorn channel and, show off like everyone talking about trading these rituals and shit. And it was a very funny moment because I literally was like, all right, this is either going to work or it's not going to work. I had not been into the Shadowcorn Holders channel yesterday until I opened it. And it worked great. It worked great because it really showed we have this engaged community, and that's rare right now. So many companies are failing, shutting down. It's not good out there. And so I just have a little bit, we'll see. It's a long road to get to term sheet, but I've had several funds already request the data room, which is a massive step forward. And, this is kind of my major focus right now to try to secure. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess is how I would end it. Cautiously optimistic. And yeah, we're just one of the few projects that's actually shipped and operated live economy in this space. I mean, we're talking about big time, like finally launching a chunk of their real economy, and we'll see how it goes. I'm anxious to see how another project weathers the storm, how they handle meta changes, how they handle economic tightening and expansion. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see more devs get out the door with their real economies. I wish some of our major competitors would, so we can kind of see how that works out. But what I am hearing, I guess to sum it up, is, VCs are saying, wow, there's really not a project that's delivered, built everything that you guys have built, especially on the infrastructure side. We don't get enough credit for our massive, web of smart contracts and live operations tools that we leverage and use. And so that's impressive. And then I can just point to Dune. I can point to our data warehouse and say, go look at the damn data yourself, see how we've managed that. And there's just not very many projects that can do that. So I do think we're hitting the bar of what is necessary as a team today to raise the level of funding that we're looking for. So
it feels connected to that energy that the streamers have and influencers and creators of, man, the space feels really stale right now. Like, I'm hungry for a game. Like, people are either on these really long cycles or they've fallen short of their promises. Nobody's just building stuff that's solid. And it feels like there's investor energy that's connected to that. So even though the timing feels like this is the craziest time to be doing it, if you're like the one diamond in the rough when everyone else is struggling, that can position you, parabolic from the macro trend. Hopefully that's not too crazy of a thing to say, Aaron, but I think there's definitely a potential light at the end of the tunnel that I can feel. Maybe I can't see it, but
we'll
feel
see. We'll see. Anytime I talk about this stuff, I don't think any other founder would ever answer a question like that in the middle of a fundraise. I've always leaned into transparency. It's just kind of who I am. So fine, we'll see. I'm very nervous about it. It is tough. There's a long road ahead, but so far a lot of promising traction on that front. No one slammed the door in my face, and major mechanism designs and tokenomics changes that I'm proposing. And so I'm excited about that. And the really cool part is most of the VCs considering this round see crypto unicorns as a diamond in the rough and something that represents, enormous potential. And investing in Laguna, they would obviously have exposure to RBW via the tokens Laguna holds on its balance sheet. And so no one is looking at this and saying, oh, CU is a failure. Everybody's like, wow, you guys have really built a lot. And I've actually been surprised. There is a VC actually this week that has been in our damn Discord. So please, please behave yourselves. Please behave slightly. And honestly, that's been great. They actually bought some land in Corns and have been playing. And requested access to the open data warehouse. So all of that's really very exciting. That is kind of the mission here, is a Series A raise that allows Laguna to become a multi-project, multi-title studio. That's been our dream from the beginning. It was the dream that the seed investors bought into, Delphi and Bitcraft and that crew, Polygon Ventures, etc. So we'll see where it lands, but again, cautiously optimistic. Awesome. Shit, I got to run to the bar. We actually have a call with the Make-A-Wish Foundation here at 10 that I need to make. They're into NFTs. That's a crazy thing. And, it would be fun to maybe do some good in the world, especially right now. So I got to run to this. Thank you, Sparkly. Thank you, Ziori, for the backup and support. Thank you, community. Quick personal note. Obviously, the last town hall, I was a grouch. I apologize for that. Occasionally, it's a little tough. Touched some grass this weekend, did an adventure race with the wife. I hope everybody hears it in my voice, feeling a lot better, excited about the future. Ooh woo.
Ooh woo, absolutely. Now go ahead and make those wishes. Make them kids' wishes.
Ooh woo.
Bye. Ooh woo. All right. Anything you'd like to say, Ziori?
Just ooh woo. On with it. No, enjoying it. I've been heads down trying to work on this Rainbow Rumble launch event. So I've been a little more absent in Discord than usual, but still appreciate the feedback and the pings. And a lot going on. So keep an eye out for all of the various social posts, and excited for this transition into active battles and, dynamic Shadowcorn versus Unicorn tug of war. So let's get out there. Let's get after it.
Let's get it, fam. All right, that concludes our Town Hall number 47. As for other questions in the thread, we will do our best to answer them later. And we'll see you next time for Town Hall number 48. That's next week on Wednesday, this time featuring LG, Jeff, and Ziori on the topic of gems and tribes. We'll post a recording of this on our socials if you would like to give it a real listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. And if you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, the Mod Support channel and the Ask Team LG channel. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with Stealthy Unicorn on Tech, hosting co-founder and CEO Aron, plus lead of product and market growth, Ziori. Morning, good night, see you in game, Unicorn fam. Ubu.